Alright, what's up guys? We're back talking about some Overwatch and of course Overwatch League. So don't ignore my rank. The event ended yesterday. So got my competitive points for I have enough actually for I don't think I have enough. Should be about 500 away, but competitive capture the flag just ended, Year of the Rooster just ended, or Year of the Dog. Year of the Rooster was last year. So season 9 started last week. Okay, 25. Just under 500 competitive points away, so I'll probably get it by the end of the season. I haven't been playing very much at all, at least on my main account, because the season's been terrible, as you can see from my rank. It's just full of really toxic individuals. At least that's been my experience. It's been pretty bad so far. So anyway, we're gonna hop right in. I don't know if I mentioned this on my alt account. I don't remember if I have videos on it or whatever, but the real VDEDGaming account, I actually placed in Grandmaster and hit top 500 in competitive capture the flag. I was low diamond on this account and for capture the flag. I didn't play it much, but yeah, I grinded it out, like grinded enough games to get placed in top 500, and I did. My highest was like little over 4,000. I was low GM most of the time, like high masters. But so that was cool, at least to be in a high rank of something, even though it's capture the flag. It was cool to not be in diamond the whole season, or if it's a good season, otherwise I'm chilling at 2900. But anyway, hope season 9 goes well for you guys. I find that usually it's kind of rough at the beginning. The beginning and the end of seasons are kind of bad. If you play a lot in the middle, I think those are where you'll get the best like people that will play heroes that are for the team, people that won't be super toxic about it, people that don't throw right away, or people that don't leave. Hey, Fortnite updated. Alright, anyway. We're talking about Overwatch League, week number 3, stage number 2. Let's hop right into it. Match number 1, Seoul Dynasty, Shanghai Dragons. Got the 11-3 Dynasty. After a kind of shaky stage 1, they are undefeated, 4-0 in stage number 2. They've beaten the Fuel, they beat the Gladiators, and the Gladiators did put up a good fight. The Fuel also put up a very good fight. But I was proud of the effort that the Gladiators had last week. But anyway, they crushed the Valiant 4-0. And who was the other team they beat? The Shock. They beat the Shock. So they've beaten the other 4 of the teams in their division. Now they're playing the last team in their division, which is the Shanghai Dragons. 0-14. Still have not won a match. They've had a couple close ones again, but they just can't seem to finish one out. And I don't think this is the week. The maps that they're going to be playing on, or this matchup, maybe their other matchup this week. I forget who they play. Man, I don't know who they play their other matchup. I guess we'll find out. But I think the Valiant, actually. I think they play the Valiant later on. But they're going to be playing on both Sky Industries, then Lijiang Tower, followed by Kings Row, and finishing up at Route 66. So Dynasty, by far the better team in every sense of the word in this case. They should have no troubles taking care of them. They have, the Gladiators took a map on them, the Fuel took a map on them, almost took a second one. The Shock took a map on them. So I think the Dragons can take a map here. Dynasty, they probably won't be like super gung-ho into the matchup because they'll probably be taking the Dragons pretty lightly. That being said, even taking them pretty lightly, they shouldn't have many problems. I'm actually not going to say it's 3-1. I don't think Shanghai gets a map in this one. There'll probably be moments, like they'll probably take a round on Lijiang. They might have a good like push or two somewhere else, but I just don't see the Dragons winning a map here. I think Dynasty's going to take this one 4-0. They'll probably, the most interesting thing about this matchup will be if Dynasty does some like switching up with their lineup, doing some experimenting. And I mean, that's about it. I don't think the Dragons have the new players in yet. They might. I don't know when they're going to be eligible and ready to go. But hopefully they will be in soon, and we get to see some different strategies from them. So yep, Dynasty 4-0, relatively easy, quick match here. I see. On to the next one. Match number 2, we got the 4-10 San Fran Shock, fresh off a win against the Shanghai Dragons. They're going to be playing against the 5-9 Fuel. So this is the number 10 team in the Shock against the number 9 team in the Fuel. I mean, they're both these teams are in a pretty desperate need for a win. The Fuel had their 4-match win streak when they beat the Dragons and the Gladiators twice, but they fell to the Valiant and to the Dynasty in their last 2 matches, so they're back down to 5-9. They did put up a good fight, especially I didn't watch too much of their Valiant match. Against the Valiant, they didn't play that well, and they got down 3-0, but then they really played well on Watch Point, Gibraltar, and won that one relatively easily. So they did take a map in that, which is good news for them. And they lost to the Dynasty 3-1, but they were very close. They almost won the 4th map. They were real close. They almost won the 4th map and sent it to a decisive game 5. Unfortunately for them, they couldn't pull it off, but they do have to be happy with how their team's playing lately. I think this lineup of guys is definitely working the best for them. And the Fuel, they're very interesting because they have guys like Siegel and Taimu and Chips Hodden and Coco haven't really played at all in Stage 2. XQC's basically been the main tank, and honestly I think he's played a lot better than Coco did. That's just me. But guys like Taimu played the first match as main tank. He was like their Winston guy, and then the second match, I believe, they brought XQC back. Yeah, they brought XQC back for the Gladiators match. So it's going to be interesting. Apparently Taimu, he was playing that main tank, like I said, and apparently he's working on that more, like in practice. He's kind of transitioning from a DPS to a main tank, it seems, at least for now. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and when and if he gets in next. Apparently Siegel's been practicing a lot of Diva, so we'll have to see if he ever gets subbed in for Mickey on Diva or something like that, or if he does come back and play some of his signature DPS players. But I think Siegel's role on the team has kind of been replaced by Rascal. I think that's why they got him, and Siegel's transitioning to more of an off-tank role, because their only real off-tank is Mickey, and Mickey's played well, but maybe they want to have somebody with a bit of a different style of play, so if they want to be more aggressive, like XQC is a very aggressive Winston, and Mickey, he's a little more passive of a diva, so maybe they're trying to get Siegel into like that attack mode. So it'll be interesting to see when they come back. I'm really surprised Chips Hodden hasn't been playing. He struggled as Mercy, but now since Mercy isn't nearly as meta, there's been a lot more Zen and more Ana play. But apparently Fuel likes Custom more as their Zen. He's been the one primarily on it, with Harry Hooks sometimes playing Zen. But yeah, the Fuel are very interesting with the combination of players that they have, and like with their additions. AKM seems to be pretty much a mainstay as like one of their starters, along with Effect, and then Rascal will be specializing and jumping in, maybe playing like Junkrat, Pharah, Genji. So I think the Fuel, Effect has really not been playing well lately, especially the last match. He got manhandled by Soon. And it's like there's no shame in being out tracered by Soon, because he's such a fantastic tracer, but so is Effect. Effect is a top tier tracer. One of the best in the world. Some people argue that he is. I think he's about like in the 3 to 4 range right now in terms of best tracers. I'd probably just by seeing what's been happening in Overwatch League, I probably have Sabioli at 1 and then Soon at 2, then probably Effect at 3. But yeah, he's been struggling the last few weeks. You can tell he hasn't been nearly as effective as he usually is. Effective, yeah. But But the Fuel will definitely be a lot better when he gets into that top tier shape. And they've already been looking better, even though he's had his fair share of struggles in the last couple weeks. So I think the Fuel are definitely on the uptrend. I think they win this matchup. I like them on 2CP. Control maps have seemed to be their best, probably, so I think they can jump out and get a 2-0 here, even though the Shock are also pretty good, unlike your Lijiang types. But yeah, I think it goes 2-0. I think the Fuel actually win the first 3, and the Shock take game 4. This series will be very interesting if... I think Fuel will win the first map with pretty easily. The second one will be really close. If the Shock can take Lijiang, this could be a very interesting series. But if the Fuel do go up 2-0, I think they close it out on King's Row pretty easily. So yeah, I got Fuel in that one, 3-1. The Fuel won the previous matchup between these two teams, 3-0. So then, going to the last match of today, we got the LA Valiant and the LA Gladiators. So, the rematch of the LA teams, the 10-4 Valiant, who are currently in 4th place, I believe, against the Gladiators, who are in 8th place. They're 6-8. So, this is a big match for both teams. For the Valiant, if you win this one, you're 11-4, and they're still in pretty darn good shape for the playoffs. If you lose it, you're 10-5. You're still definitely in the playoffs and in the playoff picture. But I think they've just been a little sluggish in stage 2. They haven't been as good as they were in stage 1, because they pretty much have gone to Kariv as their second DPS instead of like your combination of Silk Thread and Agilities, which Kariv is really good. Don't get me wrong. He's really, really, really good. But not playing Agilities at all the last few weeks, can you really not have that good of a Genji in your lineup? Like, at least some of the time? It's been pretty mind-blowing. And then Silk Thread, what he can do on Pharah and Soldier, and he's a very, very, very good Genji as well. It's been weird. They were talking to like the coaches, and they said that they feel like Kariv gives them a better like option moving forward long term. But I don't know. He's extremely good on the Widow. But other than that, none of his heroes have really stood out that much to me, if I'm honest. And they already had Soon playing a very, very good Widow when he needed to. So it's a little head scratching to me. It'll be interesting to see what the Valiant do. If they're really just not going to play Silk Thread and Agilities moving forward, they should really get transferred somewhere else, honestly. They should not be on the bench of some team. Or they should at least be specialists. Like, they come in, if there's a very good Junkrat map, say Agilities comes in and plays Junkrat, or Genji. If there's a very good Soldier map, you sub in Silk Thread, even though Kree's been playing Soldier and McCree. But yeah, it's just sad to me. That's just such a waste of talent if they're not going to play hardly ever. So we'll see how that situation develops moving forward. We'll see if they stick with it, or if they start to transition those two into more specialist types, where they like play one hero mostly, or if they do end up like trading them away. We shall see. That being said, I have to say winner here. They're playing on Hanamura, Lijiang Tower, Hollywood, and then Watchpoint. So these teams have actually played on Lijiang before, because their first match was stage 1. The Gladiators won the first 2 maps. The Valiant won maps 3 and 4, so they went to a tiebreaker. And unfortunately for me and Gladiator fans, the Valiant won. They won it. They took it 3-2. So, man, this is just everything in me says pick the Valiant. But the Gladiators do have the streak. They have the streak where they win their first matchup of their week and then lose their second. So if the streak continues, they would be a win this time, and then they'd lose their next one. And they need this win too. Going to 7-8 would be huge, rather than 6-9. You'd beat a playoff worthy team. You'd keep ahead of the Fuel no matter what happens in their matchup. You'd get a little bit closer to those Boston Uprising, who are in 7th. So this is a big one for them. They got another week of practice in. They looked good against the Dynasty. The Valiant have not looked as strong. Screw it, I'm going to pick the Gladiators. I picked against them with the Dynasty because I really thought that they just couldn't win that matchup, and even though they played well, they did lose that matchup. So yeah, I think if they play their A game, I think they can beat this Valiant team right now. Screw it. Yep, Gladiators. I'm going to say in 5. I think this one goes all the way again. And this time, the purple side of LA will beat out the green. Take it 3-2. It might be wishful thinking, but that's what I'm going with. Alright. Promise I won't talk about the Gladiators as much. So we're moving on to Thursday's matchups. So we open with a interesting matchup. Got the Philadelphia Fusion visiting the Seoul Dynasty. So the Dynasty they'll be 12-3. If they lose to Shanghai, they'll be 11-4 going into this matchup. But yeah, I don't see that happening. So they'll be 12-3, facing off against the 9-5. Yes, the 9-5 Fusion. So the Fusion last week, they played the Outlaws first. They had a huge win over the Outlaws. It was a very good step for them. It was a hard-fought game. They went right down to the wire. They ended up winning in five maps. And then their second matchup, they got 4-0'd by the Spitfire. So this is their first loss of stage number 2. They're now 3-1. They're definitely still in contention they're in the 6th spot right now for the playoffs. Or no, they might be 5th now. Either way, they're 4 or 5. I'll say like playoff picture right at the end. But they had 2 very tough matchups. They did win one and lost the other. So I think all things considered for them, it went pretty well. Now they got the Dynasty, another fantastic team that they have to contend against. They're going to be playing on Volskaya, Lijiang Tower, Kings Row, and then Watch Point Gibraltar. So this one, the Fusion when they lose, they tend to lose 4-0. They don't like ever really lose 3-2 or 3-1. The only time they lost 3-2 was against the Gladiators in stage 1, that's probably top 5, top 10 match for me. It was such a good match. Really well played by both teams, back and forth. But anyway, this one should be very good. It's just which Dynasty team comes out. You know, they've still been a little inconsistent for me. I think though they recognize the Fusion as a top tier team now. They won't take them lightly at all, like they would with some teams like the Shock or the Dragons, or like Gladiators, some of those teams that they've had a little bit of struggles with. So I think they're going to come out real strong. I think that they're going to win it 3-1. I just said the Fusion don't really lose 3-1 ever. I think this is a matchup where they will. I think they'll split the first 2, and then the Dynasty will edge them out. But honestly, I could see the Fusion winning this. If they win, I would not be that shocked. So I'm going to stick with the Dynasty on this one. But look for that matchup to be very good. Another testing ground for the Fusion. All right. Speaking of good matchups, we got the Houston Outlaws playing against the Los Angeles Valiant. Match number 2. So they're going to be on Volskaya as well. They're going to Lijiang. Then they're going to go to Hollywood and wrap up at Route 66. So the Outlaws had a tough week last week. They went 0-2 for the first time in the league, or in Overwatch League. They've always at least won one of their matchups. But to be fair, they played against 2 very, very good teams in the New York Excelsior and the Philadelphia Fusion. So they're at 9-5. Valiant actually sit ahead of them right now at 10-4. So the Valiant will either be 11-4 or they'll be 10-5. I think they might be a little tuckered out. They have the last matchup today, and then they're going to have the second one the next day. But I think even if they come out really strong at full power, I think the Houston Outlaws win this one. I just think they're a better team all around. A lot of people were speculating like, oh, which team is the best in the West? Like at the beginning, most people thought it was like the Fuel, and then decently closely followed up by like Outlaws and Valiant, with like Fusion and Gladiators and Uprising and Shock being a bit below them. I think it's the Outlaws though, pretty easily too. So This will be a very important matchup for the Valiant and the Outlaws actually. But I like the Outlaws a lot more. I think that they're just more well-rounded as a team. They got better communication, etc., etc. I think that they take this one 4-0 actually. The Valiant have been a team kind of like the Fusion who have, when they've struggled, they've really struggled, and they've lost 4-0 instead of like a 3-1 or a 3-2. So I think the Outlaws come out really strong. They're going to be pissed that they lost both their matchups last week, and they're going to take it to the Valiant. And then, in your final match of the first 2 days of week number 3, you got the Boston Uprising facing off against the Shanghai Dragons. They're going to be on Volskaya Industries. I think, is that all Volskaya for these first 2 days for the first game? Then they're going to be traveling to Nepal before finishing up their second half at Kings Row and Route 66. So, the Uprising, they lost their first 3 matchups pretty darn ugly. But then they did bounce back, and they were playing the Mayhem, that's right, and I predicted the Mayhem would pull off an upset. Did not happen, not even close. Uprising 4-0'd them for the second time. They did the same thing in Stage 1. So they got their bounce back win. They're back to 7-7, back in striking distance of the playoffs. They need to start building that map win differential and start building that win, and just until I see more from Shanghai, or possibly until the subs come in, I don't see them beating any of these teams in the league. Like, maybe the Mayhem, but when they played in Stage 1, the Mayhem pretty much dismantled them. So, I can't pick the Dragons at this point. I'm just going to say Boston 4-0. I need to see more. They were a team, they kept improving and kept making it closer, like towards the end of Stage 1, and I feel like they've regressed in Stage 2 a bit. They just haven't really been making it close or making it hard on other teams. So I think this one's a pretty easy win for Uprising, 4-0. So the Spitfire and the Mayhem and the Excelsior don't play at all first 2 days. Interesting. The Valiant have double games, the Dragons have double games, and the Dynasty have double games, and the Valiant. Huh. Well, there you have it. Those are the predictions for the first 2 days of week number 3 of stage number 2. I always have to say that a little more slowly so I don't mess it up. Quick recap of the standings. Going into week number 3, Shanghai Dragons are 12th at 0-14. You got the Mayhem at 1-13 at 11th. The Shock are 10th. Dallas is 9th. Los Angeles Gladiators are 8th. Boston Uprising 7th. Philadelphia Fusion are 6th. They are still 6th. Yeah, that's right, because they have the same record. The Houston Outlaws are 5th. The Los Angeles Valiant are 4th. Then you got the London Spitfire sitting at 3rd. The Seoul Dynasty in 2nd place. And still sitting with the best map differential and the best record, you got the New York Excelsior. So got some interesting matchups this week. We're gonna really see especially between the San Fran Shock and the Dallas Fuel and the Valiant and Gladiator matchups. You're gonna really get to see how this stage is gonna go for teams. This is a proving grounds day. The proving grounds week. They're pretty much halfway after these 2 days. They'll be halfway through stage number 2, and a lot of these teams, well, I'd say that the Shock aren't, but a lot of these other teams are in contention still for the playoffs of stage number 2, and they're all still in contention for the overall playoffs. So, hope you watch some Overwatch League. If you play some Overwatch, good luck. Try to have fun. And I will see you in the very next video.